Hello and welcome to the Grumpy Bagel Podcast. I'm your host Megan. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as the Grumpy Bagel. Hello to new and returning viewers. Thanks for joining me today. Yeah, it's been a bit, but it's always been a bit here, it feels like, since I recorded last. That's for a number of reasons. One is just, life happens. I work a retail job, so my schedule is anything but predictable. I thought about it a couple weeks ago, but it was Black Friday, and I had the honor of opening the store on Black Friday with zero sleep. I did not sleep at all that night. I made it through anyway. No major occurrences. I feel pretty proud of myself. So, life, scheduling, different responsibilities that I have, and things that are going on in my family right now. And I struggled with whether I should say this or not, but not really for transparency necessarily, but just I appreciate it when other podcasts are honest and saying what they're dealing with, even though it's kind of hard to talk about sometimes. I deal with depression and anxiety, which means that I worry about doing all the things, but then I have absolutely no willpower to do all the things. And that can feed on itself and create a huge downward spiral for a long time before I actually get around to doing things, whether they're, real life important or not real life important, but important to me. And I'm not really sure where I was going with this, but I don't know, put it out there. Because, like I said, there's other podcasters who openly talk about their anxiety and depression, and I appreciate that. Even when you're not getting, the gory details, and I don't want the gory details if people don't want to share them. But just to say, hey, this is who I am, what I deal with, and this is how I deal or not deal with stuff. And that has nothing to do with knitting or nerding necessarily, but hey, there it is. We feel like sharing today, obviously. I don't know why we say we. That was a little scary. Maybe I'm saying we because I have a friend over here. New friend. This is a uterus plushie provided by Sarah Scribbles. Well, she didn't. I'm not endorsed by Sarah Scribbles. I wish I was. She's awesome. But if you read any of her comics on, I read them on Instagram. But she has a recurring character, which is the uterus demon of doom. I'm not sure if the uterus has a name. Or if it needs one, since it's oh, never mind. This is getting too weird. I want to give this one a name. For, living in my house. I'm not sure what it should be called. Maybe you can give me some suggestions for, I don't know, crazy sounding. Because look at those eyes. That thing is up to mischief. This got really weird really fast. This is not a mental health podcast. This is not a web comics podcast. This is not even a gynecologist podcast. This is a knitting and nerdy podcast. And I've obviously gone full nerd over here, so let's just get into the knitting, shall we? It has been 2 months since I last recorded it, and therefore I have lots of finished objects to show you. And it's unusual this time because I've basically knit 2 of everything that I'm going to show you. Some in the socks, 3, because, socks. But I don't normally do that, of knit a project over again almost immediately afterward, unless I really like it, or if I, discover that I have more yarn that'll work exactly for that, which is what seems to have happened this time. So I have basically double of everything. So I'm going to start with the socks first, since I only have 3 pairs of socks this time. The first pair I have to show you is I finished my vanilla socks in Nerd Girl Yarn's Bounce and Stomp Don't Forget Me, which is inspired by Sarah Jane Smith. These are going to be for my mom. I'll show you how it pooled on the other side too here. So red stripy socks. Don't Forget Me. The second pair is also in Bounce and Stomp. These are the Clever Girl colorway. Inspired by Jurassic Park. These are for me, all mine. I just love how it turned out on there. So, on all of these are 56 stitches on size 1 DPNs with the regular slip stitch heel. So, Clever Girls. The last pair of socks I have to show you are in Canon hand dyes. In the name's really long. I'm trying to got my trusty show notes over here, trying to remember the full name. It's in the Jane MCN base. It's When I Saw You, I Fell in Love, and You Smiled Because You Knew, which I thought was from Hamlet, and the tag says it's a line from Hamlet, but then I quickly realized that's not from Hamlet. It's a translation of an aria from an, obviously, opera production of, I think it was Othello? I can't remember which play that was made into an opera and then it's translated back into English for this. So it's not actually by Shakespeare. You don't care about this. Here are the pretty socks instead. So I knit these up for Canon Hand Dyes did a, this is the 8th year I think it is that she's done a Black Friday knit along. So after my horrendous, not too horrendous day, working on Black Friday, I came home, took a nap, and then cast on these. So once again, just a vanilla pattern here. This is the mini that came along with it. I think it's the William base. Her, it's kind of a standard 75-25 merino base in purple here. And I tried, I did a regular slip stitch heel, but I also tried a new square heel turn, or sometimes called a Dutch heel, on the advice of Kay of the Bakery Bears, because she is still, and she and myself, I guess, are still in pursuit of a really well-fitting either short row heel or afterthought heel, so that you don't break up the striping sequence too much, which is what usually happens when you do a heel flap in a sock, because you have all these gusset decreases that you need to do. But, you know, afterthought heels don't really fit me very well. I'm still on the lookout for the right one. But she does a Dutch heel on her socks, and she says that when you do that, you don't have as many gusset stitches to pick up and therefore decrease, so you don't disturb the striping sequence as much as if you were doing kind of a regular heel turn. So I'm going to try that out, see how they fit on me. And I'll go into this later, but these stripes were supposed to be, if you look in the cake, it's too far away and I don't feel like getting up and picking it up. These would be a very clear, bright white. But when I blocked them, the purples and the pinks in these stripes bled out a lot, and therefore, like I said, when you get the finished object, it doesn't show up as much, but it's a very, very pale purple in these stripes now, which I'm kind of disappointed in, just because, I mean, I should have known based on something else that hopefully I'll remember to tell you about later, but I am kind of turned off purple yarn right now. Not the fault of the dyers, just the nature of this color and the amount of dye that you need to get into yarn for it to be that vibrant purple. I kind of hate purple yarn right now. I'll get into that later, but they look nice. You know, it ends up looking like it goes because, you know, it just turns everything a slight shade of purple. So, and I'll move on to the next one. I'll try to remember to tell you about my disaster later. The next pattern I have to show you is a cowl called Paris in Berlin by Joji Locatelli. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out the right... I'll show it to you the kind of folded flat down. It's a kind of a kerchief style. It kind of reminds me of the cowls that Hilary Smith Callis makes that are designed to just slip on over your head and feel like a shawl, but it's just a cowl. Not just a cowl. Nothing's just a cowl. So this is Paris in Berlin by Joji Locatelli. It's just folded down the middle. So you start out with a, you can't see it because of the yarn, it's a little too variegated, that you have a slight textured pattern, and then you go out down to this quilted stitch here. And the yarn is a Zen Yarn Garden, what was it? Zen Yarn Garden Serenity Glitter Sock in the Fantasia colorway. Let me put it on to show you how it's supposed to look on you. So you don't really get to see the textured bit as much, but just kind of comes down, but yeah, like a kerchief style over you. It's so nice. I've already worn these a couple times because I have another one to show you. Haha. But they're just perfect, and it lays really nice, and I love the detail that the quilting stitch gives you. A lot of people, tons of people come up and say, how do you do that? But they're not knitters, so I can't really explain it to them except magic? I don't know, or just getting into a whole nerdy tirade that they just kind of stare blankly at you for. But, so this yarn has cashmere and sparkle in it. I'm not sure if you can see the stellina on camera here, but it is absolutely scrummy. So that's the first one in the Zen Yarn Garden. The second version I knit out of some Invictus yarn. Sorry, I keep looking down at my show notes here. This was the Reward base, which is a merino silk blend. This lovely gray. You can sort of see a little bit of the pattern there. Just kind of a checker, loose checker pearl pattern in there. I'm going into the quilted stitch. And this color is Do Not Blink. So I get a Weeping Angels reference in there too. And since there's some silk in there, and you know, the same with the cashmere too, but since we've got silk in here, it's going to be really nice and toasty. So, right there. That's the only thing, is trying to get it to fold down in the back, and then it'll make sure it folds down in the front. But see the quilting pattern there. And this is fun too, because you know, some knits that you just go through and you like the finished object, but this was really fun too to knit. So I just got to remember how I like to tension the floats here so that you get a nice quilted pattern, because I think it's just because there was silk in here, but it was really tough for me to get the hang of this. I had to pull it fairly tightly because it was slippery, so it didn't, sag or gape in the floats here that you do for quilted stitch. But I'm very happy with these. The next set of patterns is the Pebble Beach Shawl, which is by Helen Stewart. This is the first one that I knit. Try to get up. There. I knit the medium size for this one. This is Invictus Yarn's Tenacity, which is another merino silk base that they do. This is usually sold as a gradient cake. And this is the Pinks to Black Segway. And I think all the Invictus that I'm showing you I bought at Lambtown last year. I will get into Lambtown this year, later on. So, and they give you 600 yards with Tenacity there, so it's a good size shawl. And I tried to use up as much of this as I possibly could. I still had some left over, and I thought, well, maybe I should go back and do it again to make sure I use up every last bit. But I'm actually pretty happy with where the color transitions fell. Like where it went into gray here just when you stop, or you stop the main eyelet pattern up here, but then as you get ready to go into the garter ridge there, and then the eyelets down here, I think they fell down just perfectly. And I say it's a nice good size. I don't feel like getting up today, so let's swing it on by you. So there's that Pebble Beach shawl. I knit the second Pebble Beach shawl out of, let's see, Fiber Fangirl Merino Twist Sock. This was a one-of-a-kind colorway. I just didn't have a name. In purples, so I used both skeins in my stash on this one. I made the large version, and it is huge. See there. See how big it is? It's ginormous. There. Let me kind of double it up so you can see the true color more and not just me through it. The way I describe this one is like it's all the colors of plums. And I'm not sure if it's going to show up true or not, but isn't that pretty? It's so gorgeous. And like I said, for making two such big shawls kind of back to back, I thought I'd get bored of it, but I didn't. These were really fun. I see why everyone's obsessed with Helen Stewart. So, might be even too big for that, I don't know. But I'm very happy with my Pebble Beaches. I might as well go into the next shawls that I made. They were also Helen Stewart patterns. I made more Spindrift shawls. The first one I did was out of some Once Upon a Corgi and Audrey, the first Audrey base in Briny Beach, which is a club colorway that she did for A Series of Unfortunate Events. This is for book 1, The Bad Beginning. It's just lovely. Even with the BFL in it, it drapes really well. Because I was initially wanting to do this for a Pebble Beach shawl because, Briny Beach, Pebble Beach, aren't I clever? Beaches. But then I thought maybe with this all the streaks of red in it that it could get lost in that eyelet pattern that's up toward the top of the body. And so I thought it would look a little better, or would show off the colors more if I did it in the Spindrift style. And I'm very happy with that one. I'm very happy with all of them, let's be honest. And I knit the second one out of my first purchase from Vivid Yarn Studio in the Sparkle Sock base in Peppermint Bark. And it's so soft and so airy and light. So I'm not sure if you can see this. Oh, okay, a little bit of the sparkle right there. So kind of a cream natural base with these blips of brown and red. Some of the eyelet in there. And this kind of a, side long talk into. Another thing I realized for the podcast is that up until now I have saved everything that I've bought and waited to show them to you in acquisitions before I ever caked them and started knitting with them. And as you know, it can take a while for me to get around to recording. And I started to think, you know what, this is... I like showing the nice pristine skeins to you, but I thought, you know what, I want to just enjoy my yarn. And if I feel like picking it up and knitting with it, casting it on, just go ahead and do it. There's nothing wrong with that. It brings me joy. This is a part of my life that I can afford to do whatever I want with the yarn that I have, so I'll just go with it. So, Peppermint Bark. Tangent, sorry. I finished the Stash Buster shawl that I was working on, which is by Heather Haynes. This was I was working with it in Hanalei hand-dyed Tunnels Reef out of the Superwash Merino sock base. Turned out really, really long. What am I thinking? But you have almost 500 yards in that skein because it's a light fingering weight, so it took forever. And like the last one, I did stretchy bind-offs for the picot edge and for the top edge. And let's see, is this Mom's? Yes, it is. She bought this skein, so yes, it is hers. Can I show you there? So, Tunnels Reef. I may be using up a lot of my Club Colorway skeins in this pattern just because they're usually variegated as well for like my Who's Your Doctor Club. And I just want to show off the colors, and some of them I just don't want to keep in my socks. I want to show them off to everybody. So that may be what's happening to a few of them in the future. So this is an example of that. This is in Nerd Girl Yarns Bounce and Stomp, of course, with the Club Colorway. I was on my way to this gay gypsy bar mitzvah for the disabled, which is one of my favorite lines ever out of everything that Stephen Moffat has ever written. So it's all just like every color, which is, kind of the point, but it's awesome. I wasn't sure if I could wear it with the yellow, but I really like it. And I can wear what I want with that. So, get to channel my inner river song when I wear this one. The last pair of patterns that I have to show you today is the Jessica Jones cowl by Smine. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It looks like an acronym, but I'm not 100% sure. So this first one I knit out of the fresh from the Cauldron skein that I shared on acquisitions last time, which is the Superwash Graduated, which is a single color repeat and a gradient version. This is what it looks like. So I got the color Heathcliff and Catherine, and I'm assuming the blue is Catherine and the red is Heathcliff. And I saw Gaily Whaley, so Gail of the Yarniacs, had made this pattern in the same base. It was a different color, but the same base, and I really liked how hers turned out because these are all slip stitch patterns. It's called a linen stitch. I'm trying to get a detail on there and put it together. And when you get the gradient in this style, it really works out well because then it makes everything kind of look pixelated, I think, for the color transitions in here, and I think that's a really cool effect. So I borrowed a page out of her book and made this first Jessica Jones cowl. And the second Jessica Jones cowl I made out of some, keep looking at my notes today, I can't remember anything that I wrote down last night, out of Hedgehog Fibers Twist Sock in the kimono colorway. So once again, kind of the same effect on there. That's all the slip stitches that you carry in front. Because I really wanted to use this skein, but I wasn't sure. It was such a kind of a crazy speckle variegated, I wasn't sure what to use it with, but I thought it could look very well in this one, so I did. That is the last of the double projects or the double patterns that I have. I have one project left to show you. However, you could consider this a double, a triple, quadruple, double, quadruple even, because I've made so many of them. I made a sock head. Out of some Once Upon a Corgi in the first Audrey base again, in Snow Scout. I don't know how this lightning strike happened there, but you know, hey, it's cool. So like I said, the colorway is Snow Scout, and this is the last full skein that I had of the Series of Unfortunate Events Club that Gabby did. So, you know, I was kind of sad to see it go since that's the last one, but at the same time, I'm glad that I've used all of them in projects. So there's some red, and grays, and blue in there over a natural background. Good heavens, that was a lot of finished objects. Let's go into works in progress, which I have basically none of compared to the pile that's now lying on my floor. The first thing I want to show you is I completed another panel for my literary blanket, which, if you don't know, I am collecting mini skein sets from Canon Hand Dyes based on my favorite books and knitting them into miter stitch panels, which will eventually somehow be all connected together. I don't know how I'm doing that yet, but yay, I'm going with it. That doesn't bother me at all. So this squaring, I told you I'm not getting enough sleep. This panel was from the To Kill a Mockingbird set. I'm trying to get it all in panel in focus here. So I wanted to go for a gradient effect as best as I could. So that's gonna go in there. So To Kill a Mockingbird. I haven't made one of these in a while. I am making a willow cowl, which is by Amelia Lyon. See there? It's not showing up quite true to color. There's a little more green in it. I know, it's brighter. Let's put it that way. Here's my stitch marker from A Needle Runs Through It from her Pride and Prejudice set. So I'm knitting this out of some Tosh Merino Light in the blue Nile color. See my skein here? This is going to be for my grandmother. She was down visiting lately, and my mom was wearing one of her willow cowls, and my grandmother was very taken with it, and then she said, I would like that in a bright blue. And I happened to have this in stash. So I showed it to her, make sure that we're on the same page, because she is an artist. She's the painter in the family. She is the one who's taught us all the colors. and all the variances thereof. Like when something is not blue, it is periwinkle. You know, just this as an example. So that is going to be for her. And I'm also knitting a cannonball hat. It's by, sorry, show notes again, Erin Hartman. I'm almost getting ready to start on the crown decreases. This is kind of a broken rib pattern. More stitch markers and progress keepers. Okay. This is out of Black Cat Fibers in the Essentials DK 40 wax. It's gray with some red blood speckles. So, cannonball. So, now that we took forever to get all that out of the way, I think we can go into the acquisition segment, which leads me into talking about Lambtown. And when I recorded last time, I was going to be going to Lambtown on the very next day, which I did. And I was a horrible podcaster and basically didn't record anything. I'm still getting used to that. I still feel really uncomfortable just bringing out a camera and start to take photographs or video. So I'm either just too self-conscious about that, or I'm so involved with what I'm seeing that I forget to do it. And then I don't have anything to show. Sorry. I'm going to try to get better about that. But needless to say, Lambtown was great. We were able to take our time. It felt a lot smaller to me this year. For whatever reason. There weren't any booths, basically, or stalls outside of the main buildings, which there were a lot of last year. And I'm not sure if that's just some new regulations that they have, but last year they also paired with a huge antique market that was out on the main lawns as well. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, to have people outside as well to kind of catch attention, draw people inside. I'm not really sure, but I liked it because when you have social anxiety, then I didn't feel as stressed out by things or as overwhelmed by things. I still had to take a couple breaks where it was just too much and I had to sit down and have lunch, where we found the best tacos at one of the food trucks. But I liked it. It was easier to get through and I didn't feel quite as stressed about everything. So, and I only got yarn from Invictus Yarns this time. I don't know why I feel guilty about that, because there were so many great yarns and great vendors there. But I don't know, maybe it's just kind of it's a tradition for me to just go to Invictus and buy there, which is what I ended up doing. So I will show you those to start out with. Let's see, pick which one's first. There we go. I'll start with that one. This is actually one that my mom bought for herself. We're not sure what we're going to make with it yet. So Invictus, so this is Beyond, and they offer standard skeins or extra large skeins to that. So it's either 400 yards or 600 yards. She got the large one, which is a MCN blend. So this is The Game Is On, which is a Sherlock reference. And I'm not sure how true this is coming across. It's this gray going into blue. Well, you can see it a little bit there, just barely. You can barely tell how it changes there. It's so soft and scrummy. And I got Tenacity, another skein, which is, as I said, a 600 yard skein with merino and silk. This is Missy. So there are tons of Doctor Who references in Invictus, which may be a reason why I hang out there so much. Isn't it gorgeous? This may be my favorite version of the Missy colorway out of different dyers that I've seen. So this will have to be something very special. Then we got in the Unafraid base, which is merino, nylon, and stellina, called Looks Like Rain. These blues and grays, which may need to be another Spindrift. I've made 3 of them so far, and I want to keep making more. I don't know if that's bad or not, or if it's just, hey, the yarn and the pattern match, go ahead and make all the things. So, maybe, maybe not. Looks Like Rain. This is in the Unconquerable Soul BFL base. So BFL in nylon. This is 13 to commemorate the 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, which I meant to cast this on for the very next day, which would have been the premiere of the new season. I didn't get around to that, obviously. I'm thinking of casting this on New Year's Day when the New Year's special comes on. So, 13. And this is a new base that she just put out, as if I understand correctly, which is superwash merino, silk, and yak. So you can imagine how soft this is. Look at the color. It's this deep, deep emerald and black together. It's called Nevermore. So, ooh, that decides all my nerdy gothic-y desires there. So, that's it for the yarn stash, or the yarn haul. I did get some bags. The first one is, there's a line that Eco Bags makes. Yeah, Eco Bags, where they have prints of different sheep breeds on them. And I was looking through, and I was trying to find one that was actually a wool that I have worked with a lot and appreciate a lot that wasn't merino. And I found one, and this was the last one left, of the blue-faced Leicester. Doesn't she look so sassy? She's so sassy, I love it. So that's my tote bag. And then, from A Needle Runs Through It, I got this box bag. There, with this pink, with honeycombs and bees on it, which I wasn't sure if I should get because, you know, I am terrified of bees. I'm allergic to bee stings. Why should I get it? But it was so cute. And I got it anyway. So this is very similar to the box bag that my friend Raquel made me. It opens like that. And I use that bag so much. I thought, I need more of that. So, let me try to show you the inside. Nice big inside. Here is her tag and address. I found a new to me bag maker called La Rosa Creations. She had these great bags. I was going to get one that had like knit, night, and wine on it or something, but then I found this one behind it. I find your lack of yarn disturbing. I love it, and it's red, and it's so minimalist that people have to look at it and then think a little bit and say, wait a minute. I know that quote. And here is the, I'm trying to show you the lining. So here's her label. There's these black roses on the inside, which makes it even better for me. And then she had another, I don't normally get drawstring bags, but this was the only one that she had in this fabric. And as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to get it. It's this old map of Paris. And then there's the opera. Anything that has the Palais Garnier on it, I have to have. And then I can remember my whole trip of Paris in there. See, here's the other side of that. A nice round lining in there. Got some nice pockets. Not sure if I can. I can't really show you the pockets, but assured, there are pockets in there. So that is my Lambtown haul. So that's it for the Lambtown haul. Let me get into regular stash acquisitions and try to catch you up on the club colorways that I got. Of course, I have to get into the Nerd Girl Yarns Who's Your Doctor Club, which I get the Bounce and Stomp base for this club. This was for November. Yeah, November. Good Lord. November. This is Time and Space, which is actually inspired by First Doctor's adventures. So beautiful purples and blue and very pale gray. And then this month's colorway, so you know, spoilers beware. This is inspired by the girl who died. It's called I'm Not in the Mood for Vikings. Isn't that beautiful? That's so sophisticated. I love it. Especially with this blue in here. Going into the reds over here. I may have ordered some more in different bases on this one just because I love this so much. Then there is the Oh Captain Club, which I get on the binary base. And this round of captains, because the first round for 3 months was female captains. This round is of fake captains. And so this one is inspired by Captain Flint from Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And as you may remember, there are 2 Captain Flints in that novel. There is, proper Captain Flint who buried the treasure. And then there is other Captain Flint who is Long John Silver's parrot. Look! It's all these parrot and macaw colors, and it's so bright and vibrant. I never would have expected that if you just said it's from Treasure Island. I'd think of, sepia, antique, mappy colors, but then we get this. It's so pretty. Something really fun's got to be made out of this. I have 2 skeins from a new to me dyer, which is Sherry Iris Designs. She is a UK dyer, so she is based in Devon. I got, both of these skeins happen to be on her titanium sock base. It's a 75/25 merino nylon. This is the first colorway. This is called the Upside Down, which is a Stranger Things reference, which, another tangent here. I may be the only person in the world who has seen Stranger Things and not completely lost my mind over it. I don't know why this is. I mean, I enjoy it, and I want to know what happens next, but I can leave it, and I don't obsess over it, like I obsess over certain things, like time-traveling aliens, and detectives, and creepy men who wear masks. I don't know what that says about me, but the first one, anyway. We'll try not to read too much into that. So it's this beautiful red going into a gray with brown tones in it. So, the Upside Down. And then basically kind of a speckled version of that one, which is Bonfire Smoke. Try to get in there so you can see the speckles better. And what initially turned me on to her was that I saw that someone had made a project out of yarn named after characters from a film called Ladies in Lavender, which is a beautiful film. And then I thought, I think I can safely say that this woman is the only person in the world who has ever made Ladies in Lavender yarn. I thought, I need that. She hasn't dyed it again recently. I'm hoping that she will again soon, because as soon as those are up in her shop, I definitely need that. So check out Sherry Iris on Etsy. And this is the last club color, I guess you could call it. Little Skein in the Big Wool has set up another subscription box. She has her regular subscription box, which has some goodies and mini skeins set in inspired by different books. Last year, you may remember, I subscribed to her Jane Austen subscription box. This year, it's all different children's books. And then she put out a new one. It's a sock club based on Anne of Green Gables, which, how could I resist? How, I ask you, could I resist? And there are coordinating colors in this box, which is a little different. So you get, it's an every other month subscription. You get 2 50-gram skeins of coordinating colors, which are inspired by something similar, or it's based on Anne's relationships with different people on Prince Edward Island. So you get, 2 coordinating skeins of colors, and then you get another coordinating mini skein for your heels and toes. So they, they're all different, but they go together, basically. And so this one is inspired by her relationship with Diana. You can see them there. Oh, my babies. So this is in her house sock, which is the Targhee base, which I adore. So I'm trying to make sure I got this right. This is the colorway called A Mouse in the Pudding, Raspberry Cordial, and then the heel, the mini, is a Plum Pudding. And then you get a progress keeper with it, and it's the mouse. Oh, it's the little, that poor mouse that had a, you could gently say, a misadventure in the pudding sauce that Anne desperately, at the very last second tries everyone not to convince them not to eat it because she just couldn't bear to tell them the truth until the very last second, which is a hilarious adventure. And I mean, also the raspberry cordial, which is, unfortunate for Diana, but it all works out in the end. So she has, Anne put together a bunch of suggestions for different patterns that you could use these for. I'm not sure which ones I'll use them for yet. So I'm going to hold on to these and see what I can do with them. I did promise that I would talk about a misadventure that I had with some purple yarn, which I don't really want to talk about, but just, I might as well get it out there because I talked about it on the last episode. I showed you 2 skeins of hedgehog fiber merino DK that I had bought. One was in the Shiver colorway and one was in Spell, which was a deep, deep regal purple. And I said I was going to make a color field shawl out of it. And I did. It took me about 3 goes, but I finally did. And I had no indication, just from working with it, that Spell, that deep purple, would bleed at all. I mean, nothing got on my needles. I didn't get any dye on my hands, which, is normally your first sign that something might happen when you wash it. I should have known. I should have tested it in retrospect. Washed a little swatch first just to see how it would behave. I did not. I set the entire shawl into block. I saw a little bleeding, but, I thought, this has happened before. It's never been, sometimes it's not a problem. But I left it overnight because I just kind of forgot about it, which I shouldn't have done. I should have added vinegar from the first moment of seeing that it bled a bit. There's lots of things I should have done in retrospect. When I pulled that shawl out of the water, and remember, a Shiver is a white with speckles of pinks and blues and purples in it. There was no longer any white in the stripes with Shiver in it. It had all been dyed a fairly moderate purple, with some occasional white sections where the dye from Spell hadn't bled into. I was absolutely devastated. Tears were shed. I had already been having, the day before this had happened, I had one of the suckiest days of my life. I don't want to go into that, but just to give context to what I did next. That's all I want to say about it. So, like I said, enormously bad day the day before. And then this happens. You hold up, your whole mass of, this is 2 skeins of hedgehog. Come on. And it has all been dyed purple. And I couldn't stand it. I threw it away. I didn't even let it dry. I squeezed all the water out of it, hoping, against all hope that maybe some of the purple would come out of it if I squeezed all the water out. It didn't. I stared at it for about 5 minutes, fuming, and then I threw it into the garbage. Because I said, this is ruined. This is absolutely not what I want. There's no way to fix it. And then I cried some more. I didn't even take photographs because I just said, I want nothing to do with this ever again. Yeah, it was, as the Destined to Knit gal say, it was a howler. This is one of the biggest howlers I've had in a long time when it comes to my knitting. I want to make that shawl again. in those same colors. At least I have learned something from this experience. I know that there are lots of different ways that you can set dye in a skein that you've already bought. There's ways you can do it in the oven, and ways that you can do it basically, as if you were dyeing it yourself, just adding some more citric acid to it, because the Yarniacs talked about this in a couple episodes that they did a while back. So there's different ways that you can do this. If you're concerned about a color in a skein that you have, there are ways that you can reset or just set that dye even more so that this doesn't happen to you. Like I said, if I had known that it was going to bleed, which there are things that I could have done to make sure that I knew that it was going to bleed, that I could have fixed it, it may be a few months down the line that I try this again. And I really do want to. Just, it's going to take a little while for me to get around to it. So just putting it out there, letting you know what happened with that. And just saying, the big mistakes that can happen in knitting. When knitting attacks, that's a prime example. So that's all I have to say about that. So that leaves me to think with just current obsession. I can't point to exactly one thing. I have been obsessed with true crime podcasts lately. Which the thing is, I already am. The main one that I enjoy and listen to right now is a Parcast podcast. It's called Unsolved Murders, True Crime Stories. And it's different in the way that, the hosts present, the factual evidence. But then there are other people and voice actors who provide some reenactments of the case. Excuse me. So it's a blend between, true crime and then like an audio drama podcast, which it's very atmospheric, and I really enjoy that, and I love the camaraderie between the two hosts. And there's also female criminals from podcasts as well. And I finally got involved in listening to the Generation Y podcast, and I've been going back and listening to their episodes. And one thing that I find for podcasts that have been around as long as they have, it's, for me, really beneficial to listen to some of the very latest episodes that they've done. So, the up-to-date episodes. And then go back and catch up on them because, you evolve as a podcaster, and your style and your information and the way that you put all that forward. Because I really enjoyed the first ones. And then I went back and then I thought, I don't like these guys. I think they're opinionated. I don't think that they're unbiased, although I could argue that no one is unbiased. And then I listened to some more, and then they provide, more information for why they think these things, or why they have these viewpoints. And there's like, oh, okay, I can get behind that. You've explained yourself, which, if I was able to go all the way back, I would have known that already. But it's just to show that you really just need to listen to people. And hopefully you find people that provide reasons for why they believe things, and why they take stands on things, and why they think something about something. I'm a very eloquent speaker, can you tell? So I've been really enjoying that. And it's been getting me through some of the boredom of these long, dreary winter days. I think that's all I have to share with you this time. It certainly took long enough. And goodbye from my creepy co-host over here, who is still nameless. Goodbye from me. I hope you have, a great knitting, hopefully knitty day. So just going to say goodbye here. So happy knitting, happy nerding. Bye-bye, everybody.